You're listening to the Courageous Pivot podcast. This is a space where transformation begins and possibilities unfold from the heart. Whether you're standing at a crossroads or seeking clarity on when to trust your deepest instincts and take that life-changing leap, you're in exactly the right place. Get ready to unlock the courage, wisdom, and passion to turn challenge into opportunity. Your journey starts now. Welcome to the Courageous Pivot, the podcast that celebrates bold, brave, unexpected, sometimes messy, and what often becomes beautiful in the uncertainty. I'm your host, Meghan Telpner. I'm an author and entrepreneur, and I'm so glad you're here. Now, the background of this podcast was actually an idea I had for a book. The book being about a courageous pivot, mine and others. And as I thought about who I wanted to talk to about the courageous pivot and the ideas I wanted to explore about this experience that many of us have often in our middle of life period, I realized that in gathering the information, in workshopping these ideas, it might build into something that you might want to be part of as a community around this, so that as I gain insight and you gain insight, we do it together and ultimately use the best gems that come from this podcast into what may become a book. Now, don't hold me to it, but that is ultimately the plan. And of course, there may be some courageous pivots along the way that invite me to change course. But as we set out, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Again, I'm really glad you're here, jumping in, taking maybe a leap with me. You might be new. You may have been with me for many, many years. I want to thank you for continuing on this journey with me. So as we get started, the first few episodes will be exploring how I define a courageous pivot and sharing a little more about the greatest pivots of my life so far. This is primarily script-based as I'm writing out ideas, which is how I work best. And so that is what I will be sharing. Once we're warmed up, I'm going to start sharing interviews I've been doing with some very, very special guests. This is a show for everyone. We've all been here or will be at some point. To be human is to change our minds, to ask big questions about our purpose and why we're here, and as we move through the stages of life, to ask, what is next? What is rare is to do the work and take the journey to honestly answer those questions. Most will just continue on in the status quo, whether they're happy or miserable, as the case may be. At this time of great change and chaos in our world, there are many of us who are standing at the edge of what was, looking out at what could be. Whether you're in the thick of a mid-career shift, contemplating a whole new direction after burnout, or feeling that unmistakable tug to finally follow your heart, it's not just you. You are not alone. Without going too woo-woo too soon, astrologically speaking, 2025 is shaping up to be a powerful year for change, reinvention, and realigning with your soul's true path. And this first episode is where we begin. Let's talk about what exactly a courageous pivot is and why it might be calling your name. I can't tell you exactly where the name or idea for the courageous pivot came to me, but I was on a plane listening to an interview with the poet David Whyte while cross-stitching on my way to a yoga retreat in Baja when I dropped the needle and picked up my pen to jot down his words. See, for more than a decade, I had been practicing heart coherence, and I've done trainings with the HeartMath Institute in how to guide this practice. I even created a whole program around it called Rise and Shine, a guided approach to heart-led living and leadership. And for those of you interested, by the way, go to courageouspivot.com for more information about this and a little discount for listeners. Though the term courageous pivot had been noodling around for me, it was only in hearing David Whyte talk about the origins of the word courage did it click. Courage comes from the old French word, rage, 12th century, how's my French, which meant heart or innermost feelings or temper. We know the word coeur, another beautiful French pronunciation, is French for heart, where originally courage wasn't about heroic acts or fearlessness. Courage was about speaking and living from the heart, being true to your inner self, even when it's hard, maybe especially when it's hard. Over time, the definition expanded to include bravery in the face of fear or danger, but its roots is very much about authenticity and emotional strength. David Whyte speaks about courage as the willingness to be seen, show up, and stay present with the truth of your experience, even when, especially when, it's uncomfortable. He explains that to be courageous is not about going anywhere or doing anything specific, but to make conscious those things we already feel deeply and then to live through the unending vulnerabilities of those consequences. That does take bravery, no doubt. Effectively, true courage is living in alignment with your personal truth, your soul, if you will. The challenge here, of course, is that you can only live in alignment with your soul internally before it shifts the external. It becomes noticed. You start making changes that can be confusing to those around you. You, my friend, are pivoting courageously. It is the soul's journey. And we as humans then are tasked to do the work of taking our reality along that path. And courage is staying present in those moments in life where we are tested. Courage, Whyte says, is stepping into the unknown when the outcome isn't clear. Now, most of us were raised to follow a certain path and to expect a certain outcome, which optimally was happiness, success, and security. We go to school, we get the job, we climb the ladder, we build the resume, we buy the things, we get the partner, have the kids, strive for more, be productive, and don't rock the boat. And for a while, maybe that worked. It did for me. But then life happens, or the whisper gets louder, or the ladder you were climbing turns out to be leaning against the wrong wall. Or you realize those rungs up top are rotten and won't actually support the life you have in your heart that you want to live. Or maybe it was a health crisis that forced you to pause. Maybe your industry changed. Maybe the politics or the world you live in changed or how you view it. Most likely, maybe you changed. Or maybe you simply woke up one day and realized that success and fitting into a system that is mostly broken has left you mostly broken too. Freedom, as you defined it by your previous metrics of success, didn't feel like freedom at all. That's where the courageous pivot begins. Not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet knowing that something's got to shift, and that it's going to take courage to do it. Now, once you know this, here's the tricky bit. You can no longer continue on unknowingly. This is not change, it's transformation. Change is changing your shoes, getting a new haircut, getting a new boyfriend that is exactly like the last one, but feels different. No, that's change. Change is not the same as transformation, because transformation is something that leaves you different. It is the caterpillar into the butterfly. You can't go back into the darkness once the light has been turned on. Now, when I say pivot, I don't mean throwing everything away. I don't mean abandoning your skills or burning it all to the ground unless that's what's needed, and sometimes it is. A courageous pivot is about realignment. It's often about recognition or recognition, remembering what you've always known. Remembering what you knew as a child, remembering what it is to be free, to follow the call of the heart. It's about shifting direction, not just because you want to escape what's hard, but because you're being pulled towards something truer. It's about saying, this version of success, it's not a fit for me anymore. I want something more meaningful, more joyful, more mine, and more me for who I am today. That could mean changing careers, downsizing your business, letting go of a long-term relationship, moving to a new city, or returning home to yourself. It means healing. Healing from disease, or as I learned it in nutrition school, dis-ease. Easing that imbalance that has fallen out of alignment. Whatever form it takes, the pivot is not just about external changes. It's about an internal revolution. A return to your values, your vision, your voice, yourself. And yes, it's scary. Because our culture doesn't often reward those who choose heart over hustle. I've personally encountered strange and humorous reactions to my own courageous pivot, which I'll be sharing in an upcoming episode. But what I've learned and what I've lived is that everything we truly want on the other side of burnout, discontent, or even outward success that feels hollow lives on the other side of that pivot. Spoiler alert, my experience being on the other side, following my heart, has been even greater than I imagined. Now, let me tell you a bit about what you can expect here. Each episode of The Courageous Pivot will explore a different kind of shift or a different angle of what it is to pivot courageously. I'll be talking to people who've radically changed course at the peak of their careers after a big life moment, or people who are still deep in the messy middle. We'll talk about the doubt, the fear, the practical steps, and the unexpected joy that comes when we finally decide to live in alignment with who we really are. Some guests have scaled down their businesses to reclaim their lives. Some left jobs that looked perfect on paper. Some took leaps into the complete unknown. And some, like me, never really planned to pivot, but life handed us a plot twist and we chose to go and grow with it. These stories won't be polished highlight reels. I'm not interested in editing them to be unnaturally tight. They'll be honest, heartfelt, sometimes hilarious, often vulnerable, and always real, because that's what this journey demands of us. Not perfection, not a 10-year plan, just the willingness to begin stepping into that unknown place. And as cheeseballs it is to say, the only way through is to be here now, in every moment as it comes. If you're listening and something in you feels a little cracked open, you're exactly where you need to be. And it's been my experience that there are a lot of people here. They whisper to me about it. We have private calls with high-level entrepreneurs about it. There are feelings of shame, of disappointment in themselves, of not enoughness, not wanting anyone else to know, deep feelings of failure. From my view, making the call to pivot in alignment with yourself is the full and complete opposite. It is an undervalued act of courage on the truest sense. To leap when you don't have it all figured out, when you don't need to know your next move, that is terrifying. But just keep listening. To this show, yes, please do, and subscribe, but more importantly, to yourself and to your heart. I will guide you through gaining trust in that process too. What makes a pivot courageous is not the size of the leap. It's truly the decision to leap at all, to trust that your life is allowed to change, that you are allowed to change, that what served you doesn't have to serve you forever, that success can be redefined, and that it's never, ever too late to choose freedom over fear. So here we are, the beginning of something new. If you're ready to explore what a courageous pivot could look like in your own life, please stick with me. We've got so much to talk about. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also subscribe over at courageouspivot.com, and I'll drop you an email when a new episode is released. I want you to share this with someone who's at their own crossroads. And if you feel inspired, leave a review so others can find the show. Because the more we normalize the pivot, the more freedom we give ourselves and each other, the more we get to elevate together. The world doesn't need you to stay stuck. It needs you fully aligned, fully alive, and unafraid to begin again and again and again, as the case may be. This is your permission slip to courageously change how your story goes. Thank you for listening, and we'll check in again soon.